Welcome to Nitpicking Nerds. Today we're going to talk about magic cards.
We're going to talk about how some cEDH cards don't translate well into regular Commander.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, Beezy, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. Joined by Amber, we are sponsored by Maxfield. Did you know that?
Yes, we talked to them on the regular.
Yes, and there will be a secret ad that you will not be able to predict. And also, you can support the channel by going to our TCG Player affiliate link in the description. You buy the cards you were going to buy anyway, and then when you check out, they give us a kickback without you spending any extra money.
That's if you ask me, that's really cool. They can also do the same thing with dragonshield.com, which has the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
Go there, use our affiliate link, get those amazing sleeves, deck boxes, whatever product you want. And guess what? You'll be supporting the NN while supporting yourself. And happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is today.
That means you.
That means you. And happy birthday to all of your pets. And I know I forgot, but happy birthday to the guy who I played with at SCG Pit, whose dog I was supposed to wish happy birthday. And I definitely remember, but don't remember the name.
Shelly,
that's right. Happy birthday, Shelly.
Hey!
Even though I think we're a day late.
Well, it's close enough. We tried. We really did. We're going to be talking about cards. We know cEDH is like a high power format. We're going to be talking about some of the cards in that format, despite the format being high powerful and all the decks being insanely powerful and being able to win fast. They're kind of sort of meant to play against each other. So some of the cards don't actually translate if you were to just take a cEDH deck and just put it into a level 7 out of 10 pod. Some of these cards we would change out.
Yeah, these cards aren't necessarily bad in regular Commander, but they definitely have a huge fall off to the point that I'm often just never playing these cards in Commander. So let's start with the counterspell package. Low mana interaction is incredibly important in cEDH, where everything is happening on turn 1, 2, 3. It's happening as quick as possible. Everything costs 1 mana. You're using all your mana every single turn. You're trying to be efficient, so you want to go all the way down to 1 mana for your counterspells. Obviously, free counterspells translate great. They're all still amazing in regular Commander, but things like Spell Pierce, which are going to be counter a non-creature spell unless they pay 2, fall off quite a bit.
We can also count on, in cEDH, a high density of non-creature spells. 50% plus of the things happening are going to be mana rocks, these rituals that sort of bump up the amount of mana you have for the turn, some stacks pieces, some hate pieces, all this different stuff. Because creatures and regular old chip damage isn't really getting it done. So all the stuff that's important is going to be early. They're all going to be restrained on mana because we're not playing rampant growth in cEDH. And so the Spell Pierce is going to actually counter spells. But a regular Commander, all the spells aren't like that, and we have way more time to resolve everything.
Yeah, exactly. So other spells that kind of fall off, Miscast, Dispel.
Yeah.
These are too narrow for overall Commander. Obviously, when you know there's going to be tons of instant sorceries and instants just running all over the place, and you can reliably say those types will be around in the game no matter what, then yeah, you should run these cards. They're very, very good. Flusterstorm fits in that same boat. It only hits instants and sorceries.
Also, there's a higher density of blue at all these tables because blue is just the best color in cEDH. I think that's pretty colloquially accepted, commonly accepted. So you're going to need all these spells to counter all the other blue spells because a lot of people are playing blue, and I know there's other creature decks around there. And just in the general speed, cEDH doesn't necessarily mean the game's over on turn 3, but if you just sit there and you just kind of do your own thing and develop your own board and get ready and spend 5 turns doing not much, you're done. Yeah, the game's over.
You need to be taking actions and reacting and having interaction that costs so little is super duper important. And again, last spell on this counter spell, Mental Misstep, there's a high density of 1-drops in cEDH because it is a fast format. You're doing the most powerful things you possibly can. You might not see there are going to be games of Commander where you would not see a 1-drop the whole game.
Right, but not in cEDH.
But not in cEDH.
That would be weird.
That would be weird. But in a game of non-cEDH Commander, just casual with your friends, you can easily not see a 1-drop, especially if no one plays Soul Ring.
Right, and we know cEDH games are shorter and there's more pressure, so that something like Rampant Growth doesn't actually have time to be a good Magic card. You have to untap with the land multiple times before you're getting your mana and you can actually generate stuff. So they're not even really ramping in cEDH at all. Everything is kind of just mana positive for the turn, or a mana positive rock that's just busted anyway.
Yeah, or they're using Mana Dorks, because Mana Dork's good. Wild Growth, which goes even on the first turn it's out.
Yeah.
Things like that are used to ramp crazy up.
But there's no Cultivate.
Yeah, there is no Cultivate. Some other cards that don't translate well from cEDH over, Simian Spirit Guide and Elvish Spirit Guide. They're 3 mana, 2/2s. That's it. Unless you exile them from your hand, then you get 1 green mana or 1 red mana, respectively. These cards are really good for getting you that 1 extra mana to turbo AdNauseam.
Skip a turn,
To get ahead, to start your combo a turn early, to make sure you're going to win. And these cards are fine if they're pushing you from like, I can't win to I can win. That's not true in normal Commander almost always. 1 mana is not make or break for whether you win right now or you win next turn. That's just not how the average casual Commander game plays out.
I like Lotus Petal. I play that card in some decks, but it's definitely also different because it's a permanent. You're casting it. It goes into the graveyard, and none of that's true with any of these. And it's also like there's not really any other mode. It's like it's just a mana or it's garbage. You're never trying to cast a 3 mana 2/2.
Yeah, there are some homes for this in some casual decks. I could see Elvish Spirit Guide making her way into a deck like Skullbriar, where it's like you want to really play your commander on turn 1. That's totally plausible, but overall, it's just worth avoiding for the most part.
Next, we got sort of this like stack C piece, stopping interaction type category. And that's generally just always good. Stacks pieces are good in Commander, a lot of them. Some of them just don't translate as well as some others, like Winter Orb. Pretty much just good wherever. You can play it in cEDH, great. You can play it in Commander, great. But some of these just don't translate. Let's start with Silence and Orim's Chant and all of the Silence variants that say somebody or everybody can't cast spells this turn. In Commander, the time crunch is really not there as much as it is in cEDH. So they'll just go, okay, see you next turn.
Yeah, and when we're saying, just to make sure that everyone's clear, when we're saying Commander, we mean more of casual pods.
Right, Battlecruiser, Combat Matters, even higher power that's just distinctly different from this metagame.
Yeah, even
cEDH.
some combos. It's like, Silence is something that you're just like, if you're dedicated combo, this essentially says what you add this 1 card to your combo, now no one can stop you.
Yeah.
And that is totally awesome if you're dedicated combo like a lot of cEDH decks are. They're really bad, and they do not translate outside of that. In fact, I would say these cards in a casual Commander game are actively awful.
But they don't do anything.
Yeah, I would avoid them at all costs. A card that's kind of like these, but a little different, is Grand Abolisher. It has a little more leeway because it's a creature. You can do something with it, get some of your cast triggers, get some of your draw triggers, depending on your deck build. Still, overall, doesn't translate that well. It's still fairly weak.
It at least stays. So every time it happens, it's not the full spell of like, hey, right now, you can't combo out, and they go, I'm not comboing anyway. I'll just, attack you? So this is not going to translate at all. Another one that's really weird, also, I just, this cEDH is such a changing animal. This is Archon of Valor's Reach. It's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet in cEDH. You're stopping an instant or whatever creature type, something that's going to shut people down. But in Commander, it just does not shut people down. It's like, okay, I won't cast instants. Okay, I won't cast creatures. I'll find another way to kill this thing. Pressure's not on. A 6/6 isn't even that big. All that type of stuff.
Yeah, it prevents the casting of a certain type, and that can be backbreaking. If you're aware of the meta in cEDH, because there is a meta in cEDH, unlike there's not a meta in the casual game, it's really easy to name what's going to shut down the most decks at the table. Instant, I assume, is huge. Sorcery, huge for a lot of different combos.
Yeah, creatures started creeping back up into the sphere in the meta and stuff. It's like, hey, playing creatures actually okay because you're shutting down some of these greedy decks that are just hoping to connect with Timna. That was forever ago. That was level 0 of the partner meta. But it's just all this stuff just develops, and Archon of Valor's Reach, great there. And it's like I never even have seen one in play in regular Commander.
Yeah, another one, Thorn of the Amethyst. I think this card, it just hits you just as much as everybody else, and you can't really. It's not what you're doing to prevent other people's stuff is not necessarily more than it's preventing you.
Right, and in cEDH you can ensure that more. In some decks you can. Maybe some commanders just get around casting stuff in general, and it's going to be good, but not most decks. No, Chalice of the Void. No, there's no 1 mana cost that I'd be like, yes, here we go. I stopped them.
You just go to Mental Misstep like before. It's like, again, I could just see going a whole game without seeing a 1-drop.
Or 2. After you resolve this, it's like you're shutting down 2 drops maybe.
Those aren't in Commander, in casual Commander, you're never seeing 1 and 2 drops as game enders. That's not what's ending the game. It is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drops. Big cards that are going to make big, giant differences. Deafening Silence. I am really low on this in Casual Commander. Obviously, you would only put it in the creature deck.
Right, heavy creatures.
And it's a non-creature in your creature deck. And then, on top of all that, it just feels like you're not even shutting anyone else down because there's a heavy amount of creatures in casual metas.
Right, commanders matter more. It's like you still can cast one, so it's not really shutting them down. They're still going to cast their best one, and as time goes on, they can just afford to play their spells later. But in cEDH, you just can't afford to do that. It's like, oh crap, I can't deploy my 3 spells that I wanted to do. I'm going to lose.
Yeah, and this next card is actually something that does translate well from cEDH to EDH.
What is
it's
it?
Maxfield.com. Head over to Maxfield.com and check out the best deck building website in existence. Use their awesome tagging system to put tags in your card to say, hey, this is my card draw. Hey, this is my poop cards that I don't really want in the deck and I'm going to remove. You can tag cards as poop if you want.
You can. And the fact that you can do that just makes it the most powerful deck building tool that you have access to. Because show me the other app where you can do that. Show me the other website where you can do that. This is some powerful stuff, folks. And it'll let you take a cEDH deck, copy it, port it over, and then you can change it into a regular casual commander deck and cut all of these cards that are just like not going to translate over.
It's literally the easiest thing in the world. You click the little more button, you go down, you duplicate the deck.
Ooh.
Now you have 2 copies of the deck. Let's start cutting that cEDH stuff out of it and then putting in the new stuff we're gonna put in our tooth nails now. Take out our spell pierces, put in our tooth nails. Let's go, baby.
All right, we talked a little bit about metagaming and what you can expect at a table. At a random LGS game, at a spell table game, sometimes with friends, you can't expect anything. You could expect nothing. Every deck could be Orzhov. Every deck could be without red or without blue. And there's this whole category of cards that are like, hey, I really care about this one color. And I guess that one color happens to be blue in a lot of cases. Carpet Flowers it cares about islands. And you're going to make mana equal to the islands. And if somebody has a bunch of islands, this card's amazing. It's just like a mana dork that doesn't die to board wipes and makes 3 mana on your main phase. Or not many people are playing blue, or someone's playing blue without islands, and it's just a brick. It's a blank piece of cardboard.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when the card is good, it's great. But it'll be dead in a lot of situations. And there is I've heard the argument on the other side where people don't mind having this dead in the deck because when it's good, wow,
It's so powerful.
Good. But I'm on the opposite side of the fence with this, where it's because I can't reliably see blue at my table, I'm not going to play Carpet of Flowers.
Yeah, we usually, our kind of rule of thumb right now at least is to avoid cards that hose one color only. Some of the 2-color stuff like Veil of Summer, really good in cEDH,
yes.
But it also is just fine in Commander because it cantrips, not only, like, first of all, it cantrips, and second of all, it cares about 2 colors, and the odds you're going to see one of 2 colors are huge versus, hey, I don't know, like, yeah, I'm probably going to see blue, but then how relevant are the blue spells going to be? And so it's like, you have to ask all these questions. And
Veil of Summer's less successful cousin, Autumn Veil, not interested in that at all. This does not cantrip, and we are not interested in setting up to do the combo thing. If you're, again...
It's kind of like Silence.
It's kind of like Silence. If you're a dedicated combo deck, that's the only place you want this. Otherwise, just get it out of here.
Yeah, and Pyroblast, people I know will defend Pyroblast until the day they die. We're just not big fans of it. We're not going to play a card that requires not only blue spells, but then if you're including it over like some kind of removal spell, blue spells to be the best thing that is at the table that you're destroying.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll just pass out on the color hoses. Next, we have some creatures that just kind of don't transfer over for one reason or another. We have Malevolent Hermit, which we've mentioned before. The backside, your stuff not being countered can just be blanked, which is actually why we don't like the card Destiny Spinner, where in cEDH, it's going to be super relevant to make your creatures and enchantments not be countered. Super relevant every single game. It's not relevant every single game. In fact, we just sat down in a casual pod over the weekend, and somebody played Destiny Spinner. He goes, I don't think this is very good in this pod. We looked around. Nobody was playing blue. It was actually just a 2/3 for 2, which is awful.
It's like, oh, well, you know, Destiny Spinner is a good sign that whatever they're doing is probably either kind of spiky and you need to watch out for them, or just they're playing a card, you know, that they didn't necessarily know was just not very good in this format because they ported over some cEDH list or something, and that happens all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Another one is Dark Confidant. Dark Confidant's a great card, and especially if you're in a even casual deck that has a very low CMC, it's going to be good. Most decks don't have that, though, and there are 7, 8 6, 7, 8 drops all the time, and you can't be consistently flipping those kind of cards over and over and over again. Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying their Confidant is bad in Casual Commander. I'm saying it's bad in most decks in that you have to make sure that you have this niche deck where it's like my Lurrus build. It's like, yep, it's great in any Lurrus build.
Yeah, I think in cEDH you're going to see average mana values closer, almost always below 2, or, like, let's say from 2.5 to like 1.5, and it's just so much lower than what we're aiming for. Is like, hey, 3.5 feels like about average, 4.0 is kind of clunky. It's like, I don't know if there's just so much better stuff to do than losing 4 life a turn or hitting a treasure cruise or something.
Agreed. Agree with that completely. Up next, these cards that aren't bad.
Card draw.
But they're just not, they don't translate like they do. AdNauseam, for starters. Oh my god. AdNauseam is 5 mana.
It's just Dark Confidant triggers over and over until you feel like stopping.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Exactly. You just keep revealing and losing life until you're done. This translates to wins in cEDH.
It's like game over, because just the fact that they drew 20 cards means that they can now generate mana with the free sources of mana, maybe Elvish Spirit Guides, but like Mox Diamond and Soul Ring and all that stuff. And then it's like, all right, here's my combo. It takes like 5 mana. You're done.
Yeah, and putting a million cards in their hand isn't going to necessarily do that in a casual game of Commander. It's this thing where it's like in cEDH, there are a ton of dedicated combos. The decks are dedicated to doing these combos, and AdNauseam is one of the best ways to just dig yourself straight to that combo and get it. Same thing with Peer into the Abyss, where you do the same kind of thing, but it's like half your deck.
You draw half your deck and lose half your life, I think.
It's such a silly card. Both of these cards are totally reasonable, but putting half your deck into your hand in regular Commander is not as powerful. You have to, in order to really take advantage of it, you really need a Reliquary Tower or something along those lines. Plus, you have to hope with something like AdNauseam that you didn't just go and lose 35 life because you were flipping 7 and 8 drops.
And it's also like, how much mana do you still have left over? If you're playing a bunch of fast mana and Peer into the Abyss and you're about to combo, you're just not playing a casual deck. That just sounds like a cEDH thing to me, where you're just like, hey, play Peer into the Abyss, generate fast mana, combo. It's like, okay, that doesn't really sound like what I'm talking about. It's almost like if Peer into the Abyss just draws you 30 cards and then you pass, it's just not good.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Up next is Chain of Vapor. It's 1 mana, bounce a permanent, but the player whose permanent is bounced can choose to sacrifice a land, and if they do, they can copy Chain of Vapor and do it again, and then that chain can just continue. It's literally a chain that just continues over and over again.
It's kind of like a removal spell, but you mostly just target your own stuff and then you generate mana.
You do one of two things. Yes, it's a combo. It's a ritual combo piece where you target your own stuff, you sacrifice your lands, you bounce back all your mana positive rocks, play them all out again, and get more mana, do a combo. Or it's also really important as a bounce piece for getting something off of the board on your opponent's side,
like an emergency.
I think it's just like. You look at you're talking like
Rule of Laws.
Rule of Law effects are incredibly important to get off any Staxy type piece that's going to prevent you from comboing on your turn. You wait till right before your turn and you bounce it, and then you try and go off on your turn. This card is, I think, just butts. Total butts in regular Commander.
Blank.
You just 1 mana bounce something is just not where you want to be, and almost all decks are on board. So if you have something good too, they'll just be like, all right, I'll take this chance to sacrifice land to actually get rid of something of yours.
And I think a lot of the time, it's not like a deck is default playing Chain of Vapor. They have it because there's a positive effect when they use it and copy it. How many decks have that in regular Commander? We're like, yeah, I'd love to bounce my own thing for 1 mana and then sacrifice a land so I can do it again.
Yeah. And before we get to the last 4 or 5 cards that we have on this list, we have to thank our patrons. Go over to patreon.com, become a patron with them. With their money is literally how we get to do this full time. We can keep making the channel bigger, better, faster, and stronger with you guys. Thank you.
Can't do it without you, actually. So if you're thinking about supporting and you're on the fence, BZ's going to get you over the fence and you're going to be like, boom, I'm going to do it now.
That's a fence. But yeah, that's what's going to happen. You're going to jump over.
I don't take offense to that.
Fence. Fence pun. Yeah. All right. What's the next one, BZ?
It's Noxious Revival, and this is kind of like ways to get cards back. I don't know. This is just a random miscellaneous category, honestly. It's you pay 2 life for green mana, probably 2 life. Put a card from your graveyard on top. So it's card disadvantage. It's sort of like a weird regrowth. This just happens because it's free and Phyrexian mana is kind of busted. This happens to translate pretty well into the cEDH, where there's a lot of stuff you can do with it, a lot of shenanigans to be pulled. those all pretty much go away in regular Commander, and it's like, well, why am I not just getting it back to my hand now?
Exactly. Just spend. You're gonna have plenty of mana.
I have the time.
It's a long, grindy game usually. You put it back in your hand, spend the extra mana. Don't go instant speed. Put it on top. It just isn't very good. It's totally whatever. I don't want to play card disadvantage usually. There's exceptions. Obviously, Vampiric Tutor, great exception to the rule where it's like I'm willing to take card disadvantage to put the best card in my deck on top. Not in the case of a regrowth effect. I just want to play Eternal Witness. I want to play regrowth. I want to play any of the million variants of that card before I play Noxious Revival.
Yeah, and it's not like they're playing it because it's exactly Noxious Revival. If there was a card that just said 2 life or green, put Eternal Witness, like regrowth, put a card back from your graveyard to your hand, they would play that instead, and for the most part, unless they're caring about specifically the top card. But they play that instead. But this is the fastest, freest, like lowest cost way to actually get something back, and they'll get it close enough to the point that it's like essentially hand, but we have more time to spare. We are not going to get punished for spending 3 mana on something, so we just usually play Eternal Witness and just go boop.
Yep. Also, another card that talk about the game's going shorter rather than longer. Wishclaw Talisman. This is a tutor type effect. Well, not just tutor. It is a tutor.
It hands them out.
But you give tutors out. And in regular Commander, that's not going to be good because you're not going to win when you use the tutor. The reason it's so good in cEDH is because the cards you get are just going to win you the game. You're going to tutor, give it away, and then what? What are they going to do? Tutor? No, because you already won because you tutored up your game-winning combo piece and just got there.
Or something to break symmetry where they can't even use it. Like where it's like, okay, great. Take this. It doesn't do anything anymore. I get whatever piece I need. Let's go. Yeah, handing out tutors is just miserable. It's like the worst, the last thing you ever want to do in Commander. It just kind of almost borderline falls into group hug territory where the game is now out of your hands. You have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah. And the last little category is this is some things that make mana. Tarnish Citadel. Oh my God. You could
3 damage, huh?
3 damage for a rainbow land is totally passable in a format that is going to end between turns 3 and 6. In a format that's going to end between turns 7 and 10, no thank you.
Early on the game, this is a death sentence.
It's so much life. And I know it makes colorless mana, but you cannot afford to make colored mana with it basically at all. 3 per colored mana? Ouch. Yeah. That is insane.
God forbid you actually need to cast double spells early on. You're just going to take like 9 damage. Some decks like Darien love this card. Obviously, that's the exception.
Yeah.
Not the rule. That is actually sweet in that deck.
It is really cool in that deck. Also, I think Mana Volt doesn't transfer over very well. There are obviously decks where Mana Volt is great, where you can untap it, use it, and just go crazy. Sometimes as a commander, you can really ramp out, and it's like it's card advantage enough to like make up for this basically being a bad ritual. Overall, I'm just not super excited about Mana Volt.
Great Monolith, too. They are kind of like rituals. In certain decks, when they're not just a ritual, that's when I would recommend playing them in regular Commander. And then in cEDH, you really just need the bump of mana. It's great to have. You're pretty much always going to have it. A lot of decks want it, at least. Not every deck, but a lot of decks want it. Not true here. I just never play these cards unless I can untap them.
Yeah, exactly. These are just not cards I'm putting in my deck almost ever because I just don't think they synergize very well overall, and they're essentially card disadvantage because they're just a ritual. I'm just and these are not bad Magic cards. I'm not trying to tell you Mana Volt is bad in Commander. I'm telling you it doesn't translate well. Like where you can just throw Mana Volt into like any like higher power cEDH deck because the rituals are so powerful and potent and will get you to turbo out your AdNauseam and stuff like that. That's just not true in regular casual Commander.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about porting over a list, I would take a double look at all these cards and maybe change a lot of some stuff around before you take a cEDH deck and just say, all right, time to make this casual. Or even if you take a cEDH deck and you say, I want to make this casual, well, here's how to do it. You basically cut these cards because they're just going to be terrible. And then you can cut some of the core strategies like, all right, I'm not Demonic Consultation, Thassa's Oracling. We'll cut that. And then now you're going to cut these so your deck just doesn't stink on ice when you're playing against some of these slower decks.
And if you're looking for cards to replace these with, we do a grading series where we grade cards and we give them A's through F's. You can go see what our grades are, like because Pyro would get an F for us.
Most of these cards would get D's or F's.
We get D's or F's in Casual Commander, but go see what we gave A's and see what we can replace them with. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.